It looks like they just got caught. Like someone just busted his thing. Piers Morgan's like zipping up his pants, his shirt's undone. She's trying to look like she didn't do it.
Viva, I can explain this. Do you remember being in junior high?
Oh, yeah. No.
Piers Morgan is doing the hide my boner lean. That's what he's doing. Look at him. He's like, I hope my suit coat covers it.
I didn't see it, and now it's going to be impossible to unsee.
Anyway, yeah, Piers Morgan apparently interviewed Stormy Daniels earlier this week.
And?
Well, that was the picture he posted. It was a very odd picture, so we went ahead and had some fun with it earlier today on the legal panel that I do.
What was odd about the picture?
Say what?
What was odd about the picture?
What
was odd about
I was trying to figure out where her pants went. Because it looked like she just had it was like this weird wrap thing that she had on. And two, his expression was just so weird. Let me go ahead and find it on his timeline, because his expression was so odd. Like he was guilty, like there's something else going on. His lean was particularly weird. And we just had some fun with it. But here we go. No, notice how he's got this kind of look, and then she looks like she's just wearing a house coat, which is kind of odd for an interview attire.
It's hard for me to see, so I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, folks. We're back with the technical issues 101. Mark is back on the phone. Apparently, Chrome today has decided that, well, it's Google, so they hate him.
I don't know if it's personal. I just think it's one of those things.
Well, you know what? Judging from what happened to our video earlier, and since Google owns YouTube, and our video on Tuesday has a stupid screen over it that everybody has to click to approve, and this is, by the way, even after I removed the offensive S word.
Sex.
And that, I wish it's what the 7-letter S word now. Sexy. No, we're not going to succeed if they keep doing this to us. But no, it's the other one. Starts with an S, ends with an E. And some people will say deletion of oneself.
Okay.
So look, the chat's going, sexify? No.
Sexify. That's what I call it. Sexify, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is not that. The Anton LaVey video, everybody has to click and approve. So if they're not actually signed into YouTube, they're not able to watch it. It's very, very annoying.
That's a nice trick. I think there's like one punk who is at this company who's made it his bone to pick. You know what I mean? There's like one guy there who is going to demonetize us because he doesn't like our thing.
I don't know. I wouldn't limit it to just one, but look at this. Dreadnought got a 12-hour suspension on Twitter for asking Piers if he had more activity with Stormy Daniels.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What is this? Piers Morgan is an American citizen?
No, we don't think so. I mean, he's been here. He's been on CNN.
Why not go to a French Piers Morgan and see what his take is? I think the French Piers Morgan might be much more loose in terms of the sexuality of the event. Depending on the mores of the nation, why limit it to Piers Morgan? Let's see what the Indonesian Piers Morgan says, and also maybe various countries around the world who have a different Piers Morgan.
Well, that's true. And
I mean, who's the German Piers Morgan? And I mean, the German mores on sexuality are different than England's mores on sexuality. Why limit it to England? I mean, this is a totally American story. Why go to Piers Morgan is my question.
I don't know, because I'm guessing, if I'm going to be fair, because he knows Donald Trump, because he won Celebrity Apprentice, because he's worked on CNN here in the United States for a few years.
Well, did they run out of commentators here? I mean, they on strike? Like the WGA is about to go on strike? Are the commentators busy? Is it a holiday week? Do they have to go into the bullpen to pull this guy out? I mean, it would seem like he would be the last guy, not the first. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is better than like Don Lemon. Imagine Don Lemon and Stormy.
Well, I'd rather have Don Lemon. You know, let's you know, if you're going to do it with our own people.
All right.
I mean, it's almost like the reason I'm mentioning it, they're using him as a buffer. That's why I'm mentioning it. That's why they're using him as a Bush League pitcher out of the bullpen, so they don't get the starter doesn't get shellacked. If that analogy holds up.
Sure. Well, and they also used him for Ron DeSantis about a week ago.
That's right.
So he's this nice little. He's found a little niche for himself that he's not a leftist, you know, and so he's sort of acceptable in the right, or he's controversial because he managed to get thrown off because of his Meghan Markle comments or whatever. But yeah, it could be.
Mm-hmm. Well, he might be a royalist.
He is.
I know.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have that here, so it's like something. It's like pulling somebody out of Cambodia, and whoever the Piers Morgan of Cambodia with their mores in politics, and saying, you know, why don't you interview Donald Trump, Piers Morgan of Cambodia?
Yeah. Good point. All right. So I guess moving on to something marginally more relevant, or actually a lot more relevant. Got a Rumble rant from Taytone on Rumble. What are your guys' predictions on RFK Jr. chances in the primary?
Well, let me back up, because Barnes was right about the non-handcuff mugshot perp walk thing. What he said on the Duran last night, what I saw was he believes that it's because of the NYPD.
Good point.
That's his take, and it could very well be. It may just be generally the amount of shitstorm that this thing kicked up in general, you know, as opposed to some chief of police who's a black woman who works in the police department. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around the NYPD being in charge of the political perp walk, the political handcuffing, the political mugshot. But that's Robert was right. It didn't happen. I don't know if that's the reason it didn't happen. I think it's just there was a mega shitstorm of publicity about it, and they got scared a little bit. But this is going to lead into my take on the whole thing before we get to RFK. My take on the whole thing is not about what's in the indictment. They want people to dig into the indictment. They want people, it's almost like a Holocaust denial situation. They want to, in my opinion, take him off the field of play for the primaries. That's the game. The indictment is meaningless. The trials are meaningless. Every single thing about the nuts and bolts of the case is meaningless. And it's the same thing that's going to happen with the woman who claimed he groped her in the dressing room at Bloomingdale's. That case is also going to be on the docket. They are going to try to put him, and they're not going to win these cases. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is to put him in that room and not in a 100,000 person rally in Des Moines, Iowa. That's the game. And it's not about what's in the weeds in the indictment. It's not what Dershowitz is talking about. None of that crap means shit. They want to, and he's going to win these cases. He's going to win them. But it's going to be after the fact, and they want to physically put him in a courtroom. Because to physically take away his rallies, and I think that's the goal. That's why the courtroom is scheduled to be used for this particular case, December, the week of the Iowa primaries. Could have been August, could have been July, could have been May, could have been September. No. You know, Eric, and I know why that week is being used. And in that scheduling, there is the exposure of their plan, which many have called brazen and, you know, politically brazen, as Tucker called it. But I think they've shown their hand. Now, the question is, what do you do about it?
Well, and they also probably do gag. I mean, they also will be laying out gag orders too. So it's like they'll try to limit his speech and where he has to watch his words anytime he goes to talk, which will be a Stammery. But good question on that. I would think that there may be a constitutional collision on that. But of course, by the time even he could get it to court. The election's gone, and it's like, so he can go win everything, win the court case, but it doesn't matter because they've kept him out of the primary.
That's the initial. I don't know if anybody else has. What's that?
I was just thanking for a super sticker. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know if anybody's had this take on this as I have just now. Others may have it. I don't really know, but it seems obvious to me that they want to physically tie him up in court for the entire primary season and to end his rallies. He will escape on occasion. I mean, physically get out and have a rally here, rally there, but the momentum will be interrupted, Eric. And the second part of this take that I have is they're going to throw a different rhino into each primary, thereby churning up the molasses of each primary with nobody being the leader, nobody's being the front runner. What they want to do is have 5 or 6 or 7 guys or girls, in the case of Nikki Haley, in the mix while he's being hit with 1,000 little needles of these lawsuits and gag orders and everything else. They want to try to slow down the mo. And
wouldn't that? But I think that might actually backfire, though, because I would think if they can build up another candidate, but I'm saying if they have several, then it's like, oh, it's just the Republican Party is a disaster, and then when he steps back in, it's like, well, obviously everybody swings right to him, and then the momentum can come right back. It's not that
he's going to step out. What they're trying to do is splinter the vote to where everyone's got 11% of the vote, and there's 7 people with 11% of the vote. This is the best they can do, and it's pretty darn good. As Tucker said, it's the most brazen political move ever made in American history to tie this guy up in court while the primary season is going on. You got to tip your hat to these cats. I mean, this is really bold. They took New York because they control, as Barnes pointed out, D.C., I think it was Barnes who said they had a couple of conservatives on the D.C. appellate court. But in New York, it's complete control. The changing of the venue, that's not going to happen. Nothing is going to happen in terms of the trial. It's about the scheduling of the trial and putting him in that courtroom off the field of play. You know what I mean? And it's like taking your star pitcher and saying, well, it's the World Series, but he's got a paternity case from 3 years ago, the star pitcher of the Yankees. For some reason, the Red Sox have made him come up to Boston. It's the closest thing I can think of.
Now, couldn't a higher court technically intervene? Now, I mean, like, honestly, obviously not the New York Supreme Court, but I'm talking all the way to the Supreme Court, because we do have a constitutional question on this. They're directly interfering. It is brazen, and everybody knows that.
If you didn't have this white shoe law firm, as Barnes called it, doing this stuff where they're out playing golf in between, what you need is a Dershowitz, an urban guerrilla who would go to the Supreme Court with motions and stays and writs of whatever to try to ambush this thing, moving it and saying Staten Island. They don't care. So he'll be in a court in Staten Island. The result's the same. They're going to wake up to this in a week or two. I mean, Tucker's going to wake up to this, and he's going to pull the old whistle out. But it's not about the nuts and bolts in the case. That's why it's so vague.
I understand.
It's vague not because they're looking for a conviction. It's never going to happen.
Oh, I know.
Right.
But procedural elements are something that can be argued all the way up through the courts.
Right. Absolutely.
And this is procedural.
So he'll be there. The more he's there, the better. Keep arguing. In other words, the more he contests this thing, the more, it's like quicksand, Eric. He's in a legal, phony, legal quicksand, where the more he moves around, the deeper he gets into the quicksand. I mean, it's an incredible trap. I'm sure Mark Elias and his crew of communists came up with this thing a number of months ago or years ago and said, this is what we're going to do for the primary season when it comes around. I mean, this is, and Barnes is right, probably, that they didn't want to use D.C. New York is completely controlled. And, he's also made the analogy that this is like Selma, Alabama, during Martin Luther King's time. And I think that's an accurate prediction and an accurate analysis. But I think it goes even further than that. I think these former Southern blacks are seeking retribution now that they're in power, and they're acting like Boss Hogg, and they're acting like the Southern lynch mobs did against them in 1955 in Selma, Alabama. I think it's straight up revenge. And Trump represents this white phony white supremacy cult. And these guys are just doing what was done to them or their grandfathers or fathers, whoever it was back then. And I just think it's a model image. It's a complete doppelganger image of the Barnes mentioned Selma and MLK. I think it goes further than that. These harebrained Soros DAs and phony mayors and phony chiefs of police and phony elected officials are the same as the white, the white council groups from Mississippi in 1955.
Who were all Democrats.
Exactly the same. What's that?
Who were all Democrats, by the way.
Who were all Democrats, by the way. Right.
I'm just saying, so it's the same playbook, technically.
Right.
Same party, same playbook.
Keep in mind, this has been drilled into their heads since high school. This Selma stuff and every PBS, Eye on the Prize, it is in their skulls since they were 11 years old. What they're doing is, this is just my opinion, is replicating what was done to them in 1956, with white councils and whatever it was back then. And they, as Robert pointed out, they came up with all kinds of cockamamie things on the law to put people in jail. And that's how when he put up the mugshot, Robert, of MLK, that's how MLK, wrote his letters from the Birmingham jail. And Trump they're doing to him what was done to them, in my opinion. Now they have puppet masters who are pulling the strings on them, like those guys had puppet masters in Mississippi and Alabama back in the day. And it's not that far-fetched. All
right. So welcome back, everyone, to Black Pill Friday. This is our co-host, Mark Groubert, a former Black Democrat who knows all the Democrat tricks because they ran through his blood, sadly. Yeah,
it's okay. Now getting to now that I got that off my chest, I just wanted to get into the RFK thing for a while.
Somebody actually another super chat on that. What are the chances of his beating Trump? I think pretty good, but then I'm in Connecticut. P.S. I hate the pitch clock.
I don't know. Okay, so let's get into the weeds on this thing. Forget about him versus Trump. That's never going to happen.
No, probably not.
That matchup's never going to happen. It's like Ali fighting
Tyson. Mike Tyson.
No, right. Ali fighting Tyson's. It's just two different eras, two different things. They're not in the same league. They're different ages, whatever.
Right.
Great. Computer fight. Who would have won Ali versus Tyson? But it's pure speculation. So the reality of it is, you got a primary system that Biden, which Robert touched on the other day, is trying to. I think you already did it. But Robert said he hadn't done it yet. Moving South Carolina to the front primary of the season, taking away New Hampshire and Iowa. Okay, and that's because of the black base in South Carolina.
Well, it's also because that's what bailed Biden's ass out. Remember, he lost everything until South Carolina, where he was completely connected, and then that's what pushed him through. So, yeah.
Right. Well, we all know that, but I'm saying what they're doing is moving the South Carolina primary to the first primary.
Right.
Okay. And that, by Biden coming out of that primary with the congressman's help down there from South Carolina, puts him with those delegates from South Carolina, puts him out in the lead automatically. Now, RFK is not going to be able to do that. RFK is going to, even if he's there. I mean, if they let him in the debate stage, fine. I mean, he's not going to have any political favors for himself. Nobody owes him anything. I mean, these people have a system of payola going on in the Democratic Party, especially in the primaries, where whoever is going to be on that stage with Biden, Robert Kennedy is going to be at the end of that stage spouting, wonderful ideas.
Do you think he's actually going to show? I'm just curious. Like, one thing, moving the South Carolina primary to the first, I actually think is a sign of weakness. It's a sign of saying that we're so uncertain about this guy that we got to make sure we got to gain. No, we've got to change something that's been the same for what? When did the Iowa or the first primary, whichever one that was? I don't even remember. New Hampshire. New Hampshire's been the primary for all of my life, and I think
right, but
much of yours.
What tradition, Eric, have they not changed in the past 3 years?
Right, to make sure that they're gaming. That's my point.
So because you're going to say that looks weak, and how long is that going to last?
Well, I'm just being honest. I feel like it does.
Course, but they don't give a shit.
I know that.
What is he going to do? Come out in the general's uniform and debate? He can't even come on the stage.
But that was my next question: is if they've already done that, do you actually think he's going to show up to a debate? Or is he going to hide in the basement?
Ahead. Let me just back up.
Okay, all right.
Because in what happened in 1968, which was 67, what Barnes is talking about, was the New Hampshire primary. And in that primary, Eugene McCarthy, not Kevin, Eugene McCarthy came in a super close second to an incumbent president of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Okay. By doing this sort of triggered RFK's father, RFK Sr., to get into the race, which he does. And then eventually, the same month, in March, LBJ says, I will not seek nor will I accept the nomination for my party, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he bails out, wide open field, anything goes. To answer this, the only way RFK can get into this mess is if Biden decides not to run. And that's not out of the question, because this is a long way off. He's got health problems. He's got Democratic pressure. He's got his son's indictment, which is running around somewhere. And I know that's what RFK Jr. is thinking, because that's what happened to his father. And Robert didn't mention that yesterday. Well, maybe he did. I didn't hear it. But which I recommend this show with Robert on the Duran yesterday. So if Biden bails, and that's why Bobby Jr. is in there, he doesn't have a prayer in hell of toppling, and neither do the rest of them. This is not a reflection of RFK Jr. Toppling an incumbent Democratic corrupt president is not in the cards in that party right now.
Yeah, it's the same odds as Bernie Sanders against Hillary. Because the whole system's against him. I mean, they're gonna.
Okay, but neither one was the incumbent president
of
the United States. True. And with a corrupt administration, anything goes with these cats. The switching of the primary, they thought about it for 3 seconds, Eric. They're into some other nefarious stuff other than moving a primary around. This is not their final move, but they're also determined to make this thing stacked up for him if he does run. And right now, that's the way it looks like he's in. Okay. That being said, he could be dead by the 6 o'clock news. So they got plan B, plan C, plan D, and maybe plan E. None of those plans, sadly, involve RFK Jr.
Yeah, that was my next question. It's like, let's say that for whatever reason he decides not to run. RFK is not heavily favored by the Democratic establishment at all. He's the bad Kennedy, I think, to a lot of them.
Well, I mean, he's going up against 2 dead Kennedys, which was a great band, of course, and his uncle and his father. But I mean, that carries no weight whatsoever in the current corrupt democratic system.
That's my point.
What's that?
Yeah, that's my point. I mean, he's known as a rabid anti-Veer and everything else. I mean, they hate us guts. So the Democrat establishment.
At a minimum, for RFK Jr. to be on the debate stage and to get his issues into the Democratic the bloodstream may be a big victory for him. Yeah. So I mean, let's be honest. I mean, allowing him, which they have to do, I mean, to be up on that debate stage and to start to attack these cats, that's going to be the fun game. I mean, he's never run against Trump. That's never going to happen. But the fun game is having him up on that debate stage, kind of like
Tulsi did to Kamala.
Right, it's Tulsi Gabbard. He's a Tulsi Gabbard with a Kennedy moniker on him. That's what he is. I mean, they are going to be, not willing to engage with him, not willing to wrestle with him intellectually on that debate stage. Now, how many debates are they going to have? I mean, if the guy's running, are you going to stick out your political neck to run against an incumbent Democrat? It's suicide. So, Newsom's not going to come in, and all these other cats are not going to come in. You're going to get a bunch of second stringers. You might get Buttigieg because he's tired of worrying about trains collapsing, or he wants to get out. You're going to get a bunch of weird lieutenant governors or governors, or maybe a random senator or two. And maybe the point is that, RFK Jr. will have a stage for his issues, which are worthy, righteous, and needed. So
I agree on that.
Right. So they may look at it like, you know what? Let's let this guy. We look better as a party if we let this guy on here. He's one of us.
But I'm wondering, will he have the oxygen to do it, though? Because, I mean, there's so many, are against him. Like, for example, network news, wouldn't you agree, sponsored by Pfizer. It'd be like, oh, they're obviously going to want to cover everything that Robert Kennedy does. No, it'll probably be like, In other news, psycho Robert Kennedy is babbling away in New Hampshire.
Well, it's hard for me to imagine him getting this far with the baggage that he has of being a recovering heroin addict, his arrest record for heroin. I mean, all the stuff in his past. I mean, it's going to be. I mean, they've destroyed far lesser people quicker than it will take for them to go after him. That being said, he knows this. And I guess he's willing, he's got thick skin. He's willing to go into the den with the lion and say, bring it on. I mean, it's public information. He's written about it himself in his memoirs, which I recommend.
Well, he's not young either. I mean, he's kind of like, hey, you know what? I don't have that much time. I mean, he's practically a retirement age anyway. So
right.
It's like a last hurrah and have some fun with it.
Right. I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, I don't know if I think it's a Hail Mary. To be honest with you, I think it's a Hail Mary. If Biden bails, it's like Robert was mentioning. If Biden bails out, which is what I'm mentioning, it's any man's game, and that's what happened. That's what happened in '68.
Unless now, okay, I'm going to just throw my wild cards out there because Robert does a lot of election law and things like that, right? And he's helped Ralph Nader. He's helped. I think he's helped every party, Green Party, etc., like getting candidates on the ballot or whatever. Just having Kennedy in there, who's a litigious son of a bitch, in their opinion, could be good for the system if he every step of the way, knowing he's not going to go anywhere, is just suing for every little maneuver. You're talking about, oh, well, you think they're corrupt? Yes. So what if you have a guy in there and his whole purpose is to collect the corruption and draw out, like he did the real Anthony Fauci? But what if it was that? And that would be really an interesting play, right? Just deliberately run so that way you could be victimized by this bullshit system and then sue, and go through the courts where he is much stronger and does have the name. I don't know. That would be an interesting course.
The whole thing's interesting. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I just don't see a pathway to the Democratic nomination with an incumbent a Democrat in the White House. I just don't see that possible with any of them, let alone him.
Right.
I mean, Newsom's got a war chest. Newsom's got the state of California. Newsom, he's dabbling, running around South Carolina now. And he was, according to the former lieutenant governor of South Carolina, listening to crickets among African Americans. He was trying to meet with African Americans in South Carolina, and there was no interest in Gavin Newsom.
Well, Clyburn, I mean, as long as Clyburn is there,
he runs the state. He runs
the Gavin who? I
think the African American population is about 33% in South Carolina, and that's why Biden wants, because of his connection to Clyburn and the corruption they have down there.
Well, Clyburn literally gave him the presidency. If he didn't have Clyburn, Biden, I mean, he was a goner. He was like, right. I was going to say, he's like he is now.
Well, even if the thing takes off and you're in it, I mean, Biden could bail out. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios. Could be health issues actually during the primary season. I mean, he could do badly, really badly in 5 in a row and then just, say, I've had enough. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios, deal making, backstage cigar, smoking.
Well, I'm surprised he's still in office now. I mean, we've talked about that. I just think Kamala is so bad that they were like, oh, never mind.
Well, because the point of the matter is, if RFK Jr. is in the thing when this happens, he can't just come out of the woodwork after it happens. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's going to have to decide. And that's what his father did. His father, that's why the Eugene McCarthy peace, anti-war, Bernie Sanders wing, which Eugene McCarthy represented, was furious with RFK. I mean, these supporters, they were like the Bernie bros back in the day. And he was like a Newsom character. You know what I mean? To be honest, a middle of the road Democrat in that pack. Whether he had this coalition or not, that was McCarthy's coalition to lose. And he won the state of California, which was a big primary victory. And but he did lose Oregon because there were no blacks and minorities and Latinos up in Oregon at the time.
Yeah. So essentially split the vote. Just like you were saying that they're trying to do right now with Trump through the help of the courts or whatever, because Trump is such an 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what they're trying to do. I mean, that's why they had Nikki Haley come out. That's why Pence has come out. That's why and everybody's going like, really? I mean, DeSantis, you're really going to go up against the 600-pound gorilla? Well, they know what we now know, that he's going to be tied up in court and it's a free-for-all. That's the way they're selling it. Whether the rhinos are in with the Dems on this thing for this particular Get Trump movement, which is not far-fetched in today's political world, Eric. The fact that, McConnell and Lindsey Graham may have colluded with the White House to get this guy boxed out is not that far-fetched, in my humble opinion.
Well, I mean, Graham, okay. Got a $50 Rumble rant. Thank you very much from Awafler. Mark, what do you hear about the left coast attitudes about RFK Jr.? Do they know him, or is he a possibility? We're already talking about his chances, but it's California, not that great.
There was some dream that he would run against Newsom in the recall, which didn't happen because he may have had this dream here. Maybe that was the reason. He didn't show his hand earlier on. And we got the son of a CIA operative, Michael Schellenberger, who ran and pulled votes away from the opposition in the recall. Thank you, Michael Schellenberger. It was a wonderful run. Really helped everybody out.
Who's in the middle of everything, of course.
Yeah.
Twitter files.
And his CIA father, Shelley Schellenberger. Thank you so much. But anyway, RFK was being nudged at the time to go against Newsom. So he must have had this plan before that. And that's why I didn't want to go against Newsom in the governor's race. But the reality of it is he lives in Malibu. I mean, he lives in California. He's lived there for many years. Whereas he's from back east, but so is everybody here, at one point or another. So, I mean, as for a base, I mean, me and him were in the Sirhan parole hearing together. And that ended up, I'll just tell you this, that ended up on Newsom's desk. And I think Newsom, seeing more than we are letting him see, giving him credit for seeing, knew that his opposition was RFK Jr. And this future wing of the party, yes. And that's why Sirhan was not paroled. Because what did Newsom say over and over again? I am a fan of the Kennedys. I worship the Kennedys. RFK Sr. was my mentor. I have his picture on. And I'm going like, why is he doing this? Why is he going after this whole Kennedy legacy thing?
And he split the Kennedy family in pieces too.
I'll give you an example of how this scumbag operates. Okay. Let me give you a minor example because you're not out here. So the federal government has moved, because of storms or whatever crazy reason, the tax deadline to October 18th. Everybody's aware the federal tax deadline has been moved from April 15th to, I think it's October 18th, whatever it is.
Okay. In California alone?
Federal. No, IRS federal tax deadline.
Oh.
You're the last one to know. So, Mark.
No, thank you very much, because I just got my taxes done, but I had no idea. Okay,
well, you're in the news business, so obviously you didn't know this one thing. So Biden and the IRS moved it. There's people here celebrating in my house, but they moved it to October 18th. Okay, so Newsom issued a press release saying the state of California, for California taxes, which are, pretty large in this state, enormous taxes, would be delayed until October 18th, right? Just like Biden issued from the federal IRS. So he left out, there's 58 counties in California, right? This is unbelievable. Just to show you that how this guy plays politics. He said, all of the California will reap the benefit of this order, this executive order. And he left out 3 counties in the entire state of California, 3 red counties, 3 agricultural counties with Republicans in these counties. And those 3 counties, one of them had the guy who ran against him for the governor's recall, the Republican candidate, came from one of the 3 counties. And the other 2 counties are red, thoroughly red. So those 3 counties now have to have their state income tax done by April 15th. And there's sheer chaos. Nobody knows the counties. Nobody knows that it's due. He did this as payback against the 3 red counties. That's how petty this prick is. That's how
brazen again. It's like,
right, absolutely. Now he's gone after Huntington Beach because they wouldn't close the beaches during COVID. I'll be going to Huntington Beach tomorrow morning to go down there for the weekend and meet and talk to certain people about this. He went after Orange County, which is the county surrounding Huntington Beach, for also not cooperating with his COVID shutdown plans. He threatened and took away money for the county. This is what this guy does while he's in South Carolina on the taxpayers' dime campaigning for the presidency of the United States, and the state is literally melting down in terms of corruption, in terms of taxes, in terms of gas prices, in terms of crime, poverty, inflation. This mofo is in South Carolina and busy running for president. But I just want to show you the vindictiveness of this cat to go after, and this is not even making the national news, this story. It just shows you the pettiness of a guy who is willing to screw 3 counties of California citizens who have nothing to do with this problem, who have done nothing to him other than living in 3 predominantly red counties out of 58 in the state of California.
I know, because if he knew, he would pick on the citizens specifically, like you first.
Yeah. They can get their names. In fact, Robert Barnes was talking about, the jury pool in Manhattan. They could easily find out you're a registered Republican and then get you off of that jury, in the Trump case.
Yeah, and that's probably, I'm guessing that there aren't very many Republicans in California. I mean, technically there are, but a lot of independents are secretly probably right wing.
No, but I mean, there are red counties. There's 3 red counties here, and there's, Beverly Hills went for Trump, for Christ's sake, right here in the middle of Beverly Hills, California is red.
Some of the other areas too. Isn't like Bakersfield a little redder? Or
definitely red. The Nunez area up there, Fresno, that whole agricultural belt is red. No. There's McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy. There's red pockets throughout California. With there's 42 million people in the state, Eric. It's not 42 million Democrats. That, for Christ's sake. This was a state run by Ronald Reagan and Schwarzenegger and others. But sure. That being said, I just wanted to point out what RFK Jr. would be up against if he decided to put his hat into the ring. This is not to mention his vocal problems, which are enormous in terms of listenability and debating and that whole verbal thing. It's difficult. And look, I love the guy. Don't get me wrong, but it's difficult.
No, it's very difficult to listen to the guy.
I know.
But then again, okay.
But we've got Fetterman. We've got Fetterman who's using a teleprompter. I would strongly, insist upon having CC captioned screens, if I was RFK.
Well, yes, but I'm also like, I'm sorry. It does come into my mind. It's bad enough listening to Biden. The 2 of them on stage going back and forth would be a challenge to my senses. I don't mean to be rude, but
he's not incoherent. It's just
he's brilliant.
It's just a raspy voice,
right? And it's a weak voice. Scott Adams had the same thing. I forgot the condition of it, but yeah, it's like it's faltering and falling out. It's very challenging. And then you have Biden going.
Keep in mind, his father had a very, very strange voice, RFK Sr. And I urge if people don't, now it's on to Chicago, let's win there. It was a combination of a high nasal voice and a Boston accent. It was very difficult to listen to his father at times. His uncle worked on it and got a deeper register, I believe, in his tonality. But his father had a higher nasal, annoying sound to it. If you listen to old speeches by his dad, difficult.
Wow. You know what? You were talking about Kennedy's and everything. I was thinking, no, there was one more who ran. What happened with Ted? Now, obviously he didn't win, but what happened with Ted against Carter?
Well, I think we covered that in the show last week, right?
Well, in the election.
I'm
not talking about Anton LaVey and all that. No, I'm talking about Ted running for. Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to tell you what basically happened was the Southern black vote in the Democratic Party was Jimmy Carter's vote. He was Joe Biden at that time. As a Southern governor, he owned that vote. Kennedy could not touch that vote. That's why the attempt went south, and I mean that, going bad, because Carter owned the black vote in the Southern Democratic precincts. That's the short answer.
Okay, so he did a Clyburn, or he had a Clyburn situation.
He had a
with
bunch
Biden.
of Clyburns because he was. You're talking about the governor of Georgia, Eric.
Yeah,
talking about the governor of Georgia.
Okay.
And he had the Allman Brothers.
But did he have Leonard Skinner?
He didn't have Leonard Skinner. Bashir told me when they stayed over after the Allman Brothers played at the inauguration, her and Greg went up to the Lincoln bedroom and twisted up and smoked a giant doobie in the Lincoln bedroom. Just
as one should. Okay, well, you know what? We got some super chats. We'll just run these through really quickly. Dustin Russell, a loyal user as usual, delayed his son's adoption.
Week he delayed testicular cancer surgery. I mean that's a really bold statement. So
I know, but now he's delaying his son's adoption proceedings.
Well, look what's going on in Israel. Happy Passover to everybody. There's a lot of turmoil in Israel, as we've seen, and this seems to be a typical situation where they wait till the holidays. You've seen this a million times, Hunley. Where they wait for the holidays and then they do terrorist stuff. I don't know if you saw the news today. It was another car driving into a crowd, a terrorist car, and Israel's starting to fight back. And you're going to see more of it this week with the fighting rabbi who's fighting back against the Palestinians for Passover week of the high holy days. So keep an eye on Netanyahu and the fighting rabbis, the soccer team, coming out of Tel Aviv. That being said, the movie pick of the week is a rare film called Gabriel Over the White House. And I don't know if anybody's heard of this. Came out during the Depression. Walter Houston, John Huston's father, is the star. He plays a corrupt American president who is visited by the Archangel Gabriel and then decides to help the United States and get honest and get rid of his corruption. And he violates the Constitution of the United States. He goes on a tear like you've never seen to fix the country. And I recommend this for Easter week. Gabriel Over the White House. This is a rare classic. If
it's rare, can people watch it? I mean, I'm kind of like, well, you said it's a rare. Well, is it easily watchable or findable if it's rare?
It's an archive Warner Brothers collection. Yeah, this is not that obscure. I mean,
okay.
Oh yeah, no. It's a big film. It's just a film from the Depression.
Okay.
But Walter Houston, I just thought it was ironic. Walter Houston plays a thoroughly corrupt American president who has a car crash. And while he's dying in the car crash, or while he's unconscious, I don't really remember, he's visited by Gabriel, who tells him how to fix the country. And this corrupt Weasley guy comes back to the White House as a completely different president.
Wow.
I'll just leave it at that.
So the details. Sounds like they use that same base, not exact same principle, but have you ever seen the movie Dave?
Yeah.
It's kind of
Dave's not visited by the Archangel.
No, he's not. No, but he's a stand-in for Slimeball, and he's really a do-gooder and all that. I like that movie too.
Loves Dave. Who doesn't love Dave? Was it Kevin
Kline?
Kevin Kline. Yeah,
and Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver. Now I'm going to get into another story. This is a weird one. I don't know if anybody heard this story. It's about a guy, a rapper he wasn't a rapper originally, but he was in the Fugees, a guy named Pras Mikel. I don't know if you know this guy.
Yeah. This is a DiCaprio.
You know this story?
The DiCaprio testimony right now.
Thanks for removing my punchline, but I'm going to go on with the story anyway.
Well, they don't know.
It's hard to work here, folks. I'm just new to the nightclub. But anyway, so there's a guy named, not J-Lo, there's a guy named Jolo, who is a Malaysian multi-billionaire who had been funneling money through cutouts to the Obama re-election campaign, right, Eric? And this guy is now on the run, but the rapper from the Fugees, Michelle, is on trial for election fortification or bundling illegal money to the Obama campaign. And one of the guys that has been brought in to testify, this is what you were going to mention about is Leonardo DiCaprio. And DiCaprio is being brought in to testify because this guy, Lowe, was the funder for The Wolf of Wall Street, the movie, and gave. That's where I was going with this. That's why I didn't want to mention DiCaprio yet, but it's out of the bag, so we'll keep going. He also gave DiCaprio all these different paintings, like Basquiat paintings and Picasso's, worth tens of millions of dollars. And this is a system of cutout of people to get the money to the Obama campaign. Now, this guy is allegedly is said to have stolen the money from retirement funds in Malaysia or some kind of crap. He's a billionaire from Malaysia who is now apparently in hiding, but not in hiding at all. He's in a very small country called China because he did their bidding. In other words, this cat was not doing this on his own. He didn't care if Obama got reelected or not. This guy was doing this for the Chinese Communist Party. And that's why the story is of interest. They allege that Michelle received 21.6 million in payments from foreign accounts linked to Lowe, funds which the rapper then paid out roughly to 20 other straw donors. Now, there's other guys like Dinesh D'Souza, as we recall, who went to jail for $5,000 under the Obama administration. So this trial, he took tens of millions of dollars to lobby the federal government. Michelle did. And
sounds like Sam Bankman-Fried before Sam Bankman-Fried.
No, this is just more direct money being given to him to give to the Obama campaign. There's no investment here. This is not an investment scam. This is just cutouts of people as buffers between the Communist Party of China to Lowe, to the Fugees rapper, to Obama.
So that's laundering.
But it's laundering for re-election purposes. Now, this also happened to a guy named Bill Clinton. And a guy went to jail who was a Chinese communist. The same exact situation. You could look it up. The guy who was jailed was a Chinese guy who funneled money to Bill Clinton, bundled it. The same situation here. What's interesting is that it's Hollywood, that it's DiCaprio, who seemed to be an untouchable, now testifying. Now, he's not under any investigation, DiCaprio. He's merely testifying as to the wealth and how he got involved with Lowe in the funding of the Wolf of Wall Street. Now, I don't know if Scorsese's going to testify or not, but he testified. Lowe told him that he hoped to donate between $20 and $30 million to Obama's campaign in 2012. Okay. And then DiCaprio meets this guy, Michelle, the rapper, backstage at a concert, and he doesn't remember if he was at a party at his house or not. This is DiCaprio's house. So if there was a real media, this story is so buried. I had to dig it out of my own underwear to present it today. I don't know if Barnes has stumbled onto this story or not. But they talk about this club that is part of this. And the reason I mention this is it's not unique for the United States. This model is being used by the Chinese communists in these countries around the world. This is their model of how they get their guy into power in whatever country it is. We see it now all through Central America. And even Macron said at the G7 that you got to be part of the club to get this money. And he mentioned the club, and Macron said that the Biden family is part of the club. And those were his words, Macron's words. And we all know this, but this is a system. And it's so deep and so convoluted with cutouts and money coming out of the Chinese Communist Party that it would take 20 indictments to get back to the CCCP, if you follow what I'm saying. But this guy is a huge fish. This cat's a huge fish. So he is being tried in absentia by the U.S. government, and he's already back in China. And he's not even Chinese. He's Malaysian. I mean, whatever that means.
Yeah, well, I'm not completely surprised.
This rapper from the Fugees, this rapper received over $100 million from Lowe. Okay, not J-Lo, J-Lo.
Yeah, and I heard the Kardashians were involved with it.
Yes.
I mean, it's wider than Leonardo for certain.
Oh no, right. He's merely as a character reference for to show the enormity of the wealth. That's why they asked him about the Basquiat paintings and the Picassos. and it was for DiCaprio's charitable foundation. What triggered this in my mind is I was in the library yesterday right here, and my friend, who's the librarian, went over and he opened up a door that's got these computers in it, and the door is locked now to keep the homeless out of this room. And I said, you keep it under lock and key? He goes, yeah. And in that room are the computers, right? You would use, and people do nefarious things if you're homeless in there. This is the DiCaprio room of the library here in Los Feliz, which has all his movie posters. He donated the computers, so they made them. Yes. So I said, now the DiCaprio room is under lock and key, and we both laughed. He says, "Yeah, there's no other choice."
So, you found another librarian who you get along with there?
No, this is the one I do get along with. He works under her, the head of the Library Communist Party of Los Angeles. This is a regular Yankee fan, normal guy who's his assistant librarian, I think. But anyway, it was kind of ironic that he was locking up the DiCaprio room yesterday when I was in the library.
All right, well, we got some tips come in on locals. Zendaga sent a $5 tip, spot on trying to detail the primary, and thank you very much. GCM Loser sent a tip in asking, was it a mistake for the Tennessee legislator to kick out 2 black members and not the white woman? I don't know the full details.
Look, the more you delineate the color and cooperate with them on this line of anything, any issue, you got to be blind on everything, because they'll just slice and dice you to death. Once you acknowledge what they want, what they're saying, you're dead. You're politically dead. You got to do what you got to do, and whatever they're doing down there, they're doing. You cannot cooperate with their insanity by, whatever her thing was, or why she wasn't ejected, or they were, or whatever it was. Whatever you're going to do, just do it. Just do it. Or don't do it. Or don't do it. But you can't delineate it by race anymore.
Fair enough. I think we covered this a little bit, but another tip. Does RFK Jr. entering the primary open the door for Newsom and others to announce? Maybe.
Well, it's not. Newsom's going to do what Newsom's going to do. I mean, he's got, like I said, he's got a huge war chest. He's got some name recognition. He's going to run in 2028. If this door doesn't open now, he will be back. He's a young guy, blah, blah, blah. He's got the Pelosi connections.
He could be a new VP. Who said that she's going to be there? Well, who said it's going to be Kamala? Is he going to stick with Kamala till the end of time? Or maybe we could cycle out a new VP. We don't know that. That's happened.
I don't know, but that's not what we're talking about here. But I mean, she's not going to break away and go after her Democratic president.
Sure.
That's not going to happen either. Either he bails and it's a wide open field, or he stays and gets a nomination. It seems just cut and dry. I don't know any other political answer from me. I mean, there may be other political answers, but that's not my instinct. My instinct is it's his to walk away from. You could indict his son and you could put pressure on him, but how much pressure can you ultimately bring against the head of your own party who's the incumbent? You know what I mean? Like, it's a certain limit. You can stab him a couple of times with a sewing needle and nudge him. But at the end of the day, if he's dug his heels in and he's going to run come hell or high water, there's only so much you can do, because the window closes and then you got to wrap your arms around him for more reasons than political, to hold him up too.
Yeah, fair enough. One more. Every time I listen to Dave Smith on Timcast, the more I like him. He has no chance, but dang, he's an interesting cat.
Who's Dave Smith? I don't know.
Dave Smith's the libertarian part of the, I think it's called Mesos. It's like a sect of libertarians. It's like libertarians already are, super tiny, so let's splinter. Yeah.
That's weird. Okay.
But anyway, we've got some more super chats here. Please dedicate a show to George Urban, known as Ugly George, who in the 1980s roamed New York City, enticing women to bare their breasts on his public access cable TV show, one of whom was Debbie Harry Blondie. That sounds like a segment, not even a show.
Short. That sounds like a short show.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a mention on a 44 Friday, which you just did.
Combine that with Adam Purple and his wife, who rode around dressed in purple for a decade on purple bikes. They had planted gardens, victory gardens, around the Lower East Side in empty lots. And they had long she didn't have it, but he had a long ZZ Top beard. And they dyed their hair purple. They dressed in purple. He was Adam Purple, and I think she was Eve Purple. If you want to get into obscure New York characters like Moondog and some other cats. I mean, maybe we could do a show of all of them in one show, but there's not enough there for that guy, you know.
Yeah, well, that could be a show in 20. Let's book it for 2026, 2027. I don't know. All right, Pasha. Based on how the spring has been going so far, I have a reluctant suggestion for Yiddish word of the day: troyern.
Troyern. What is that word? I don't know that word. But it reminds me that we're going to switch over now to a new sponsor for the show. And we're going to go away from the Yiddish word of the day for a while. But the new sponsor of the show is Heroes of the Blues. And today's hero of the blues is this guy, Clifford Gibson. These are R. Crumb drawings, by the way, Eric.
Yeah, who?
It's Heroes of the Blues. These are classic collection. Clifford Gibson was born in Louisville in 1901. Gibson cut his musical teeth in St. Louis. He recorded 24 sides for 2 different labels between 1929 and 31. One of the first city performers whose playing had no pronounced rural influences. Gibson took the single string vibrato laden approach of Lonnie Johnson, but placed more emphasis on improvisation. He died in 1963. Today's hero of the blues, Clifford Gibson.
Who was the drawing I asked you? I didn't hear you.
R. Crumb.
Art Crumb. Okay.
Yeah. These are Crumb's cards.
All right. Mr. Westner sent us a super sticker. Thank you very much. Outlaw Pete. It's all a big show, politics. Gentlemen, I truly enjoy the content. Thank you for all that you do. Here's some scratch from Mark's book fund. Thank you very much, and I'll take half of it.
Go Hunley.
Now, anything here is technically both of us. If you want to donate specifically to Mark, he does have a PayPal. But I mean, obviously, I appreciate. I have my own PayPal too.
We gotta get a new Chrome after this show, apparently.
Yeah, we got to work that out. Daniel Cathers, CPA here. Mark is mostly right about the deadline getting delayed, but that is for most California businesses, entities, and people. IRS chooses the counties technically.
Okay, so I'm not talking about the IRS. The IRS is given a federal blanket for everyone. I'm talking about California state taxes. 58 counties, 55 get to file in October. 3 are screwed and have to file by April 15th. At least that's my take on it right now.
Okay. Pasha, here we go. Let's follow up. Troyern is sorrow or grief?
Like Vern Troy and Mini-Me.
That is sad. Judy Pratt. How did Teddy get out of the car underwater and Mary Jo didn't? Wow, we're digging out.
Well, I mean, they were both drunk. And she was a girl and he was a big, strong guy, and he got out and she did, he didn't go back and get her or help her. I mean, he got out.
It doesn't take long. I mean, in fairness, she could have been knocked unconscious and he might have been unconscious and above water slightly, and she could have been
it's hard to tell at that point who gets out, who doesn't. And I mean, he says he went back down. I have no reason to think he didn't. I mean, you could say that he didn't, but that's just somebody saying that. He said he did, but
right. Well, if he actually told the authorities that within a time period, not the next day, then it might have been clearer. That's
why I recommended a couple months ago the movie Chappaquiddick. Great feature film, wonderful acting. An Australian actor plays Ted Kennedy. If you don't want to see Gabriel over the White House, check out Chappaquiddick this weekend. Fantastic film from a conservative point of view about Chappaquiddick.
Well, fair enough. All right.
Not a documentary, feature film.
Cool. LOL. So the guy who financed the Wolf of Wall Street is guilty of money laundering. That's effing hilarious.
No. That's why I brought the story to the surface here. Right. I mean, it's an amazingly insane story. And Scorsese doesn't care where the money comes from, and neither does DiCaprio, for that matter. I mean, you're making a movie. Let me tell you something. It's not.
I'm sure there's a lot of dark money in Hollywood.
Yeah, no, there's tons of dark money in Hollywood, and I don't necessarily mean it's dark money. It's just nefarious cats who invest in films who want to make money.
Like mob people invest in films. Different people. I mean, I'm sure drug dealers invest in film. I mean, they take money for film, don't they?
Yeah, they don't. In other words, you're not vetted. That's not their job to vet you. If you go, listen, I'd like to put in $3 million for this Woody Allen film. It's not Woody Allen's job to go, hey man, where did you get that money from, huh? Yeah, a drug dealer or something? You know, that's not his gig.
Wow. Okay. Did you see the clearly automated money laundering scheme that's going on with Act Blue that James O'Keefe just exposed? Millions of fake donations.
I don't know what Act Blue is, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. Is that a nonprofit?
Yeah, it sounds like some sort of a
NGO, like a Soros NGO or something.
Yeah, or PAC.
Or PAC, yeah.
Maybe I'm not sure. Okay, JM's giving me a little more on whatever is in Tennessee. The woman was one vote different from one of the two in Tennessee that got kicked out. 66 versus 65. A white knight spared her, and now they're all racist.
Oh, all right. Well, it's in politics of Tennessee. I don't know when Nashville became Brooklyn. I must have missed that a couple of years ago.
Oh, just ask Scott Rouse. He moved. Scott, I mean, it's bad. It's bad. I'm hearing.
Where did Ben Shapiro move to?
Ironically, Nashville. You know what? No, he couldn't be too far from the environment of LA. So he waited and moved there. I'm sorry. Wait
until this thing settles down.
No, I'm sorry. He moved to Florida. His business moved to Nashville.
Okay.
But I'm sorry. Ben Shapiro's in Florida. His business is in Nashville.
Where's the business?
Nashville.
Okay, so where do those people live who work there?
Well, if they report to the office, I don't think they fly in. But yeah, I don't
fly in. But where are they living?
I assume, and I don't want to get too far, but I'm going to assume if they report to work physically, they might live locally.
Yeah, that's of course. No, I remember it went on for months of him.
Going
on about Nashville
and Tennessee and Nashville, blah 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 blah. Yeah. But yeah, I hear Nashville's getting really bad. Not all of Tennessee, Nashville. But then, what was it? Was it Memphis or Knoxville that had the cops who killed the FedEx guy? And they were all dirty cops. They were like gang members who got on the. It's bad in different areas there. Sadly,
until they start voting red, and look, I'm not endorsing red, but it's just the alternative. To what's going on, nothing's going to change. If you keep doing this, I mean, it becomes a one-party situation, and it would be, I don't know, it would be bad if it was the other party in one-party rule also.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Word on the street is the Dems are running Obama's wife and Newsom for Prez and VP. No, I've heard everything. I've heard is that Michelle.
That is. I don't know what street you heard that on, but that ain't going to happen.
That's one thing. Everything I've heard is that Michelle Obama absolutely does not want to freaking deal with it at all. And I've also heard that Barack is happy now. He's like, okay, I did it. And he just like laid back, just chills and gets stoned. Doesn't really care.
Yeah. Oprah's not coming out of Montecito Heights either to do this. I mean, it's a question of, I've said this before to Barnes. I've said it on the show. The base of the Democratic Party, the physical human base is black women. That's the base, not black men, not white men, not Asians, not gays. The physical numerical base is black women. She's an untouchable Kamala Harris. She can't be moved one way or another. It's like a white knight or black knight. But the reality of it is, whoever is the nominee has to, and that's part of why they're moving the primary for South Carolina to the front. And forget about the corruption of Biden. It's a righteous thing to do if you're a Democrat, if that's your base. Because if it's Iowa and New Hampshire, which is the argument the Biden administration is laying down, which is not far-fetched, you've got two white enclaves of Iowa and New Hampshire setting the trend for essentially a black party. That's what their argument is, Eric, about South Carolina. And they're correct. They are technically correct. That's the base of the Democratic Party. If you start out in two exclusively white areas as your first primary, there's going to be a lot of upset people.
Yeah, true.
In the base.
And they've, obviously been worrying about that for 50 years. But
right.
Anyway, Dustin Russell has a bone to pick with you. You're incorrect. He didn't delay his testicular cancer surgery. He gave up an actual testicle for us.
Oh, you know what? I saw that in the paper. That was bold, my friend. That was very bold. I didn't know I thought you started out with one and then you had none, but you started out with two, gave up one.
And we thank you. We thank you very much. We appreciate it.
From my testicles to your testicles. Can I hurry?
Well, you're one.
No, I've got two. I haven't given them up.
No. But our quad to your single, we still salute you. Michael Hebner with the super sticker. Thank you so much. Joanna Breaks with the super sticker. Thank you. JM, for the correction, I was mocking the ideas that they are racist based on one person voting differently.
No, I realize.
Sure.
Yeah.
And let me see. Are y'all afraid of honestly doing the U.S. Liberty and LBJ's cover up of that? I was kind of suspicious y'all didn't bring that up with LBJ podcast. Watch Sacrificing. Okay, hold on. We're doing like 3 more LBJs eventually, but we got to get through Kennedy, and that's the issue. Or am I wrong?
What's your take on the USS Liberty, bro? You bringing it up because it's anti-Israel? Is that what you want for your $10, bro? The USS Liberty because I just mentioned Israel. That's why you're bringing it up. Eric could do a show on the USS Liberty. I'm not interested in that situation. I think it's been cleared up fairly well, fairly honestly by historians. I don't think it has anything to do with LBJ. Now, if you want to get into the Gulf of Tonkin as a phony false flag, I'll be willing to get into that as the start of the Vietnam War. But where does the USS Liberty end up, bro? What happens after that? Where does it go? Isn't it just a one-off situation? Think about it.
All right. Well, that was fun. Let's see. Joanna Breaks is a new member. Thank you very much. Pamela Clifton's videos and music. I enjoy y'all's channel. Have a great weekend. Well, you too. Thank you. Trenton Paul. Always fun. Thanks, guys. Thank you. King Bowler 62184 is a new member.
Whoa.
Bob Ruhlman or Ruhlman, I'm guessing. I hope I got it right. Love the show. Looking forward to more JFK shows. Oswald, LeMay, and Connolly will be great.
Those 3 are definitely 3. Well, the Oswald's multiple parts, but LeMay and Connolly are going to have their own shows for sure.
Yeah.
Also, Alan Dulles will have his own show, but Connolly's a big fish. LeMay's a bigger fish, but I don't know. Connolly's pretty big. I don't know who's bigger there, but the Oswald thing, like we said, is multiple episodes.
Right. The question too is, who is Mark really looking forward to talking about?
Is that the question? Oh no,
that was the second half of that. Yeah.
No, Oswald.
Okay.
Of those three?
No, I mean, period. I mean, there could be. I mean, you brought up other people like Eugene Dinkins, which I thought was fantastic, and other characters. So it was legit.
I mean, Connolly's going to be interesting because people have a certain opinion of Connolly. He was a slippery, slimy cat. I mean, that guy switched political parties. He started to work on the other side. He became the Republican Secretary of the Treasury. There's a lot to Connolly that people don't realize as LBJ's campaign manager. Stealing the election in Texas, for the Senate. It's a lot to be done with him.
All right, awesome.
And the famous quote, "They're going to kill us all." And this is the guy's coming for Connolly.
Apparently.
He's in here.
Jim Satala, Act Blue is the DNC Dem fundraising clearinghouse.
What is a DNC Dem fundraising clearinghouse? What does that legally mean?
I'm not sure, but I keep thinking of like giant checks and sweepstakes, but I don't know what.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I don't know what that means, but I get the idea. I'm just wondering what the legal framework of that thing is.
Yeah,
maybe it's like Acorn. Maybe he's going after a big Acorn thing again.
Could be.
I mean, that's how he made his bones, right?
Yes, yeah, back in the 2009, I think. Got some Rumble rants, Mr. Scott Awesome. What do you think of the competing narratives of who started the fire at Waco? Just watched the Waco docu on Netflix.
What is their take on? I don't understand. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, Janet Reno sent in the fire starters. You think that Koresh? Oh, there is that other narrative.
Yeah, that right. There's two. Yeah. I will say that I interviewed the FBI negotiator who got pulled off of it. Before everything went bonkers. So it's interesting. The guy who was actually communicating with them and had a good thing going, had some rapport.
Right.
Got to get rid of that shit.
Well, look at this. I mean, Reno also made her bones pulling a kid named Gonzalez out of a house in Miami.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh God,
Koresh
yeah.
didn't have a second act. She did.
Yeah.
You know, so if anybody's got 2 strikes against them, it's Janet Reno for the Elian Gonzalez situation.
Right. All right. Let's see. Somebody said obscure film pick. Rumble Rant, thank you very much. Tropical Rocket from earlier.
Wait, what's the pick?
Probably your pick.
Oh, I see. Right. But it's the holiday week, so it's got angels in it.
Okay.
I mean, the reason I picked it is we just did devils, and this has angels. Get it? Devils, angels, Easter.
Right. Let me see. Taytone says, I hear the new Chicago mayor is even more commie than Karen Bass and Beetlejuice.
That's what I'm hearing. The same thing, although it's hard to believe. But I again, there seems, and I've said, I'm not the only one who ever said this, there seems to be no end to how far left is too far.
No.
There's never been any markers put out there on the highway saying, like, what is too far? We know, like, on the right, you just go, well, the Klan, the Proud Boys, Minutemen, Birchers, whatever. There's an end. On the left, there seems to be no end. I mean, Karen Bass was a Black Panther. She was a communist who visited Cuba dozens of times to meet with Fidel Castro. And now she's mayor of this enormously large city. This maniac is the mayor of an enormously large city. And God knows what Eric Adams got going on in New York. So all 3 of those across the board are running these 3 major cities, and they will run them into the ground. There is very little doubt of that. I mean, if you look at London Breed, you got a 4th one in a smaller city up in San Francisco, where if you're an executive, you can't even go out and get a cup of coffee without being knifed to death. Now, from what I understand, that executive from Cash App had already moved to Florida, was coming back just to close his apartment out, and he moved to Florida because of the crime. And he had a luxury apartment, couldn't get out of San Francisco alive. That was what happened to this guy. Hacked to death on his final trip after moving to Florida.
Do you think it'll actually change the damn thing? I mean, because I keep, you know, obviously I don't want anybody, you know, to die like that, but I'm like, well, if it starts to affect the real rich, the real people who are movers and shakers, will that then make them go, oh, you know, maybe we should stop crime. Maybe we shouldn't legalize,
the
you know,
crime
burglary.
It's politicized. The Black chief of police came out and said, it's outrageous that anybody would politicize this crime. It's outrageous that anybody should mention what I just mentioned. It's outrageous. It really
of course, which is, you know, it's kind of funny. Nobody should politicize crime. Well, what technically is fighting crime? It is politics that changes policy to fight crime. So it's absolutely
the police and executives are getting hacked to death, and stores are closing left and right because you can't keep merchandise in the stores. It's a little bit political. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds political, and the elected officials are still saying that you should defund the police. Now, if you didn't have a budget, let's say you didn't have a budget, you're like 1970s in New York, and reluctantly you had to cut services. You had to, which is what happened under A-Beam. You had to cut fire. You had to cut police reluctantly. This is not reluctantly. This is intentional, ideological slashing and cutting of these essential services.
Right, because they're shifting that money elsewhere. It's you know, it's not like they're going to
give. It's not about money, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's political ideology about F the police. In New York, when they did it reluctantly. Back in the 70s, people were flipping out and sad that it had to be done, and then it was restored under Giuliani. But nevertheless, this is not necessary. This is intentional from a communist wing of the Democratic Party. And they believe that you've got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. They want the chaos in the streets. They want the chaos. I know it's hard to believe for the American people, but this comes right out of Lenin's playbook. And I don't mean John.
All right.
Who may or may not have written Helter Skelter at this point.
Escaped Hamster on Rumble with a rant wants to know, any idea where Hinckley lived during his Hollywood sojourn? I didn't know he had a Hollywood sojourn.
Hinckley lived. I mean, he was in a mental institution in around where Hunley is.
No, his Hollywood sojourn. I didn't know he was in Hollywood.
I didn't know he was in Hollywood. So
okay, and 63 Telecaster with a $21 Rumble rent. Thank you. Have a great weekend, guys. Well, you just made it a little better. Thank you very much. Got a few more tips on locals. Tarkina 53 sent in a tip, came in late, watching on 1.25 speed to catch up. The tax deadline is 4/18 for filing. If you request an extension, that date is 10/16.
I'm under the impression that you don't have to file an extension.
Okay, well, I
don't know
literally
who's saying this, but I wouldn't put that out there if it's not true, because I'm under the impression it's an automatic extension for the American people.
Yeah, I don't know.
300 million people filing for extensions. Let me just be emphatic about that. I'm sorry that went out there, but I'm under the impression that Biden has extended the tax filing to October.
I'm not sure. I know I texted my wife while we were on, and she was looking up. She said that's for extensions. So I don't know. I don't.
The normal extension. Just let me be emphatic again. The normal extension date is October 18th, regardless of whatever year it is. This is automatic. And if somebody else has any other information, please post it and a link. Okay,
well, fine. She was going by the irs.gov. Maybe it's not updated on the sites yet. I don't know. Let me see. GCM loser. Would you like to see a remake of All the President's Men with the latest information that's been revealed? It'll be very boring. It'll be, well, they went into Mark Felt's office, they took a chair, or they met him in a cafe, and he said, "Well, here's what's going on."
Well, if you look at the film itself, it's mostly walking and talking. There is no real action for the film, and unless you're into that subject matter, nothing really happens. They try to make some drama with this musical score and with some driving around at night, but there's really nothing happens in that film other than walking and talking. I mean, there's obviously there's no chase scenes, which could happen. I mean, if you look at certain films like Silkwood or some other political films, there are action scenes that do happen, but not in this film.
Yeah, it's a drama, really. Yeah. Let's see. John Coles sent a tip. Go Books. And GCM Loser said, my movie pick is anything with Alicia Vikander.
Oh, who's Alicia? I'm
not familiar.
Yeah.
Sorry. Otto M sent a $15 tip. Thank you. Just got here. Great show anyway. Well, we are waiting for you, Otto. And now.
All right, let's start the show. Otto's here. Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, we can get going here. Let's see. Got that. We've got a couple more super chats came in.
You may want to get one of these hats. I mean, this is a pretty good hat.
I agree. Yeah. And if you don't like that style of hat, there's also the bucket hat for
I like
those
the
who want
hat.
Want those. We have Mr. Tico 75. How would you define communism in your opinion?
How would I define communism? I mean, it's the state running your life on every single level. There's so many levels of state communism in California that it would take me an hour to delineate every single one of them. But I mean, it's the state being in your bedroom, the state being in your house, the state telling you what food you can eat, the state telling you can't have a gas stove, the state, telling you you've got to register your car for $700. I mean, you could go on and on and on. Just because you're not calling it something doesn't make it not that something.
I guess my simplest is that the state owns all means of production.
Right.
So all businesses are owned by the state.
That happens under fascism as well.
Very true. I mean, but now we're starting to split hairs. But I mean, technically, state owns all.
I made the argument that this is a quasi, corporatist, communist peanut butter and jelly sandwich with both of these things smushed together.
Sure. And besides, fascism is socialism. The fascista.
They're united in certain aspects, like getting rid of the meritocracy, getting rid of individuality, getting rid of religion, getting rid of the nuclear family. It's really about what they're getting rid of than what they're bringing, in my humble opinion.
Well, and keep in mind, how can you make everybody equal? You smash them down to the same level.
Right. Like here, they've outlawed, this is hard to believe, but they've outlawed the building of single family homes to replace the building of a single family home. It started up in Oakland. It's spreading down through county by county through California. And you have to build apartment buildings now for the masses. And as I indicated over a year and a half ago, they're beginning to increase the cost of a car registration because they want to force you into mass transit. Now you say, is that communism, that fascism? Who the F cares what it is? It's not what we had. You know what I mean? If your car registration is $1,100 and you're a Mexican American rancher, a lawnmower guy, and you can't pay the $1,400 or the $900 to register your truck, what difference does it make what type of government? You're on a bus with a leaf blower, bro. That's where you are. You're finished. You're toast. You came here. You're a citizen. You work for a business that does lawns, let's say, and you've got a leaf blower and a truck with all that stuff on there. You can't afford the $1,100 and they want you out of that truck. They want you, and they've said this publicly. The gas taxes, the gas prices, the electric cars, all of that stuff is designed to get you into mass transit. Now, how is this guy supposed to bring home money for his Catholic family that came here a generation or less, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, let's say, to put food on his table when he's on a city bus with a gas blower, with a leaf blower?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not saying it's right, and
no, but
I do agree. Technically, when you said fascism, communism, same damn thing, really.
Right. This is the party of Cesar Chavez and RFK. So, I mean, to do this to Mexican working class people in LA is a little odd. And RFK Jr. should make this one of his key points, that this is what his father's political bond with the Latin American community in California was through Cesar Chavez, through the working class people who were Mexican Americans and now Central Americans. I mean, to do these things to them in terms of making their life so much more expensive, it sounds anti-democratic party to me.
Well, because the people who are doing it are elites. I mean, it's same thing with the press. They're all elites. They're Columbia. That's the part that people understand is it's a bunch of elites telling everybody that everybody's against them. That's like in the black society. Who's determining what's so terrible and happening? Well, white people are going around doing it. A bunch of Karens are sitting there saying, look what they're doing to you.
They don't like traffic jams and they don't like people. I mean, the people wearing masks now in California are the help. That's who's left wearing a mask. The waiter, the Mexican waiter, the Mexican lawnmower guy, the people that come in contact with the elites, and the elites aren't wearing them. They're forcing the help. And I believe that's where the whole mask thing started from out here, was they were afraid that the people coming into their gated estate were bringing in stuff from the outside world, which is a great bizarre fear of these elites all the time with their OCDs and their hand washing and their gels and their spraying of the groceries. All of that stuff started not in the hood. It started in Brentwood. That's where it started. It started in in these gated communities because they were having their help come in.
Because the unwashed masses are near them.
Well, I can only recommend, if you want to see not obscure, but I mean, a film that may be a little bit off the radar, Louis Buñuel's Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. If you want to see a film that covers this type of thing, forget about Triangle of Sadness. Watch the movie by the great Louis Buñuel, the director, who did a film called The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. In that film, the help leaves from this mansion during dinner, and they can't even feed themselves. It's a black comedy. The guests can't feed themselves because the help has walked out. So I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, no, totally. Tony Clifton still waiting for Mark's review of Mary's Mosaic by Janney. Just skip the trial part.
Just read the book. I mean, it's written by a CIA family. I mean, what's wrong with that book? I mean, Janney's a CIA family. I mean, his father was a CIA station chief. Why wouldn't I believe every single thing in that book? Why? How am I supposed to know what's true in a book written by the CIA? How am I supposed to know what's true and what's not? Is there a manual? Do I look it up? I mean, where do I go to find the truth out of a CIA novel?
Fair enough.
And it's a great read. Don't get me wrong. I just personally can't discern, because of the author's background, whether it's a CIA talking point, truth, or fiction. So I can't recommend it to be, because I don't know what's true or not in that book. But if this guy would like me to go through the book and pull out what's a CIA bullshit and what's true, my life's too short. I can't do that, bro.
Fair enough. All right. Greetings from Cyprus. Thank you, Chris.
Cyprus. Is Cyprus the one that hates dogs? One of these islands hates dogs. I don't know if it's.
Oh, I think that's no. There
were dogs.
No, it's okay,
around.
Oswald. It's okay. It's okay. Don't be traumatized. Mark doesn't really mean it. Cyprus, they might like him. Don't be threatening Oswald with your damn rabbi. What kind of cookie? Isn't Cali incompetent in enforcing their trash?
Enforcing their trash? You mean garbage pickup, or?
I don't know if it's garbage pickup or just enforcing their policy. I have no idea.
Oh, that I know. I mean, they pick up the garbage. I don't know where it goes, but it tends to go somewhere.
In the state house?
I mean, they do have a good system here, because I don't have to recycle all of my plastic bottles. The homeless go through the garbage of every single person's home to take out all the plastic recyclables and take them to the center where they get money to live on. So if you don't really have to recycle, they will go through your trash every single night and pull out every single recyclable thing that provides money for them. So it's an interesting service.
All right. Thanks, guys. Escape the Banana Republic of California for South America. Go figure. Cheers.
Wow. That's a big leap.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's an entire continent. It's rather, I mean, what part of South America did she go to?
Okay. Well, the tax thing, everybody's going to go nuts. Okay. Just look this up. Tax filing is April 18th, except for several states due to storm damage.
Okay. I don't know who's saying that, but okay.
I don't know either. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but this Act Blue thing is 100 times worse than Acorn. Every dollar, we just don't know. We just haven't had a time to look it up.
I haven't had time to look at it. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But I don't know what it is.
And if you're on Locals, please share articles on Locals for us to, and everybody to check out too.
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing at all. I just never heard of Act, whatever it is, Act Blue.
And this is confirmation for you. If you live in the right county in California, your federal and California tax deadline is automatically postponed to 10/16.
He's right. That's right. If you live in the right county, which is 50.
Well, as long as it's not the right. Hold on. The correct county, not the right, because if it's the right, that's bad.
55 of the 58 counties are the correct counties for that date. He's right. He's right.
I just wanted to clarify, but it's like, careful though, as long as they're not right, if you think about it. Chris Watson, appreciate your research and subjects. Love learning untold history. Oliver's book and documentary, The Untold History of the United States, opened my eyes. Keep up great work.
It was on Showtime. Keep it in mind, it was on Showtime.
And it might have influenced the show name a little bit, just a touch, just a touch. I think only a spring. Anyway, tax relief in disaster situations on IRS website.
Okay, good answer.
And let's see.
Well, he also hired 87,000 tax collectors, which I think they put a dent into, didn't they, Eric?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure he said, "Oh, look, we got rid of unemployment." Let me see. We've got another tip that came in. The first panacea for a mismanaged nation is inflation of the currency. The second is war. Both bring a temporary prosperity. Both bring a permanent ruin. But both are the refuge of political and economic opportunists. Ernest Hemingway.
Wow, that's a great statement. And then he blew his head off.
Oh, but maybe he was inspired when he. this is my thought.
He drank a gallon of rum, fought for the Lincoln Brigade in the Spanish Civil War, and then blew his head off.
Yep. He also wrote the shortest novel in history, or shortest story in history, or fully defined story, 6 words. For sale, baby shoes, never worn.
That's funny.
I don't think he meant it as funny, but anyway, that is considered like the shortest complete story script or whatever, from what I understand. But all right, so we are wrapping up here. I have a grill stream tomorrow on Locals. Everybody, you might want to be like Oswald, and you can always get your own Oswald below. There's a merch link. And if you also can get a bear if you want, a Groubert. That's also for sale.
Bear. I don't know. That's
well, yeah, you say that steal them from your house.
Yeah, it's an anecdotal report out of Bearsville, New York.
And of course, as always, I really do encourage everybody, locals.com. We try to put things up there as much as we can. There's a whole community. People are sharing things there all the time, and it's getting more and more busy. Have you noticed that? How much more stuff? It's really, really awesome.
Locals is really popular now.
And it means a lot.
Oh, this is my Locals thing here.
First
time I'm using it. You got one, right, Eric?
I do. And they like us enough that they set that up because of all the support we have from you. We actually have 62 people watching on Locals right now with a private chat. And by the way, the chat has been a little bit aggressive on this show tonight. So if you want to...
What do they got going?
All kinds of things. Somebody is very annoyed with you talking about Israel and liberty. But
as a Zionist, I'm very upset with your opinion. Really upset.
Anyway, doesn't matter. Some people like, the Locals community, private chat. That's an incentive there. Obviously, we're on Rumble too. We love Rumble rants, and thank you very much. What do we have Tuesday? Or are we going to save that?
There's a lot of people going to be very happy with Tuesday. It's a story about a guy named Little Lyndon. His nickname was Little Lyndon. I'll just leave it at that. And you'll see what happens with Little Lyndon on Tuesday.
If you want to cheat and get ahead, we have 3 episodes on Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
And his name,
there, right?
This individual has come up in those episodes. So check our catalog, look up LBJ. You'll know who it is.
Right.
And we will see you Tuesday talking about Little Lyndon.
Right. Good point.